the idea that once you feel that great about it, it'll just come anyway, it's almost a moot point because you're already feeling so good. You don't need that thing to manifest in order to feel that way. It just does.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want this because I think I'll feel better. Oh, I'll just get feeling better.
Yeah.
Now I don't care. Oh, here it is.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
But it also is a new bouncing off place. In other words, it's fun. It's fun to have the evidence. In fact, it's one of the things that you so knew. You said, I'll go forth and I'll explore and examine and I'll decide. And then I'll align with my decision. And then the manifestation will come in evidence of that creation. And so, since you're creating in a physical world, the manifestation is just the icing on the cake, but it's not the whole thing, is it?
Yep. And then you just think of something else that makes you feel good, and that comes down.
But just sort of wrapping up what we just left behind is that, but if it's the all things, if it's everything that I want, now I've got myself in that place where I want something that isn't so much, that now I'm out of the vortex and now it all breaks down. Good. You understand it clearly.
Thanks.
So now what?
Well, I have a question about in life, sometimes, in my experience and many people's experiences, sometimes there is loss that comes. Someone close to you dies, and you miss them very much. And for a moment...
we know we are really interrupters supreme, but let's change the word to loss to perceived loss.
Okay. I would
Because there is no loss. There is no loss. When someone that you love dies, you know what happened to them? They went into their vortex and became all that they've been asking for. That's not a loss. And you know who they're hanging around with? The larger part of you. So if they feel lost to you, it's only because you're not hanging around with the larger part of you.
Right. Okay, so let's call it a perceived loss then. And so
let's call it a stupid perceived loss. Let's call it an unnecessary, ridiculous perception of loss that doesn't really exist. Let's call it what it is.
Okay. It could be, yes, because they are turning into something wonderful and magnificent, but it may be more difficult to talk to them or, give it
you are arguing for your limitations again. In other words, you can't listen to a radio station that you're not tuned to either, but you don't call it loss.
Right.
We don't see you in your car with your head on your steering wheel sobbing. What's wrong? I can't find 101. It's gone. I'm getting some other station. You just tune the dial and it's right there, right there.
Okay. So maybe this, I'm not sure if this question will make sense, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
It'll make sense and then we'll make fun of it.
Okay. So if I, at that moment, feel like I need to cry, and then I cry, and then I feel much better after I've cried, I've let it go.
You know why?
Why?
The crying distracted you from the bogus reasoning that you had going on.
Okay.
Now you got snot running down your face. You're like Esther, you've lost your eyelashes.
Right.
In other words, seriously, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the vibration that had you pulled apart.
Okay. What I was noticing is that if there's a moment where I feel like crying and I say, no, I must be happy, I'm trying to stay joyful, and I just push it down, deep down beneath my knees, and then maybe I do find a way to feel happy. What I've found is that if I don't acknowledge that need to cry in the first place, it's like it's still rattling around in me.
Oh, that's just stuff you've heard, and that's not even accurate at all. Okay. In other words, for anyone to say you need to cry it to get it out of you, that defies all the laws of the universe. It's not like you've got this negative stuff that you've got to cry away. You're either focused on stuff that makes you cry or you're focused on stuff that makes you happy. End of subject. Now, we're not saying that you don't have something to cry about,
Right.
Esther remembers her father saying, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. And she thought that was so screwy. I already have something to cry about. I don't need you to give me something. But we really want you to understand that when you have that feeling, we don't disagree with you. We would just let it go. In other words, you really don't have any choice. When what you want is alignment with who you really are, and what you've got is something different from that, sometimes you just have to let go and let whatever's going on vibrationally happen, because it won't last forever, and something is going to get your attention that's going to make you feel better. But it is so helpful to understand the laws of this universe and to understand why something feels the way it does and why something else feels better, because only then can you get any deliberate control of your own life experience. So let's play out a scenario here. Give us an example as you've been giving it, and we're going to guide it to a better feeling place faster.
Okay. I have a close friend who dies, and I miss them very much.
All right. So under what conditions does it sort of creep up on you? When you go someplace where you might have been together?
Sure. Or if something reminds me, or it just in the near term right after, they're just not around. We just can't hang out.
All right, so you feel the absence of that. Now, whenever you know what you don't want, you know more clearly what you do want. So you're sending off these rockets for friendship, for companionship, for more fun, for more alignment. When you feel the lack of someone, you're sending out requests for the presence of someone. But the flawed premise that you've been living under is that now they're gone, they're really gone. You speak of people who have made their transition as lost or dead or gone. So when you understand that there is no ending to anything, and that you still do have access to that which they are, you really do. What does that sound like to you? In other words, if we say to you that you could still hang out with them, but the difference between the hanging out you're doing now and the hanging out you may have been doing then is that they're in a very high vibrational place now. So they're not as you remember them. They are not disappointed about anything. They're not worried about anything. They've left behind all that worrisome stuff, and they're in a very high vibrational place. Do they still sound like somebody you'd like to hang out with?
Sure.
So now, does it feel... And we're not trying to guide you here. Just tell us what you mean. Does it feel as satisfying to have this emotional, vibrational hanging out experience as it did to just hang out with this person? It doesn't feel as good, does it? Because what you're longing for is what you had. What you're longing for is the tactile, the tangible, the auditory, the visual. You're longing for something that clearly is not possible. Right. Not at this point. Now stay with us, because this is this larger point that we've been wanting to make. Because of your fixation, all humans, on physical reality, of wanting to see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it, you have been misunderstanding that so many of your relationships were based upon something so much more. There is an emotional connection to every single person. In other words, together, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship it was or who it was with, together, the two of you created a version of a relationship that was bigger and better than this relationship ever came to be. In other words, every debate or argument you had, you became clearer and wiser. Every time you misunderstood or didn't agree, harmony became part of it. In other words, together, you created a relationship that most people in their physical form will never ever come close to actually enjoying in physical terms. But now, you have the ability to go into your vortex and to live the reality of that relationship, which means this relationship that you're missing temporarily has the potential of satisfying you in bigger, better ways than you ever experienced before. Esther's relationship with her parents is richer and more satisfying and more often satisfying now than in the years that they were living. Because in the years that they were living, so much of her attention, Esther would move through life, and she was always really scratching her mind to try to find ways that she could help their life be just a little better. And everything that she tried never really made their life any better, because their life was what they were creating it to be, and Esther really didn't have that kind of creative control in their life. Where now she doesn't do any of that. Now she just enjoys the richness of all that they are. They have deep conversations that they never had time for. You know what it's like to have a conversation with someone who's not on your wavelength. And we're not saying that one wavelength was the right one and the others were the wrong one. We're just talking about trying to talk to somebody who's on a different wavelength. It is so unsatisfying. But now that they've reemerged into non-physical, they're on the same wavelength, you see. So the satisfaction is so much more. So now we want to go back to what we were getting at earlier. So you're missing this person. But your logic says it's not going to ever be like it was. But through this experience, I now have put something into the vortex that was never there before either. And that's what is there?
A new wanting is there. Yeah.
All right. So is it a wanting to be up to speed so that you can communicate with this person? Or is it a wanting to replace this person with another relationship that is equally or more satisfying?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It can be all of those things. In fact, it probably is all of those things and more.
Yes.
But there is a new desire. This experience of this person making their transition has caused you to expand to a place that you have never been before, which means your responsibility. Remember, this is the only time we use the word responsibility. Your responsibility is to now get up to speed with this more than usual expanded version of you because of what happened. So your sadness is not because of the loss of this person. Your sadness is because you're in a new place that you're further from than you were before.
Because I've launched more powerful rockets.
Yes. It's like, so here you stand. So let us just ask you the question. Do you get it that the gap between you and you is what equals everything that doesn't feel good? And that the tight alignment is what equals your exhilaration and passion and eagerness? So this gap is all about the difference between the vibrational frequencies between you and you. So this is what's really going on. Hold on just for one. This is what's really going on. So let's say you start out when you're born here.
Yeah.
Then life causes you to go here. And when you're little, you go. And then life causes you to go here. And when you're little, you go. And life causes you to go here. And when you're little, you go. And then you start getting educated from society that needs you to behave in certain ways. And life causes you to go here, and you don't go. And then life causes you to go here, and you don't go. And then a friend dies, and you go here, and you don't go. And you say, oh boy, I feel awful because my friend died. And we say, no, you feel awful because you didn't go.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess the question is, I think what you were saying earlier today is it's okay to feel the contrast, to feel that gap, because it guides you towards catching up.
Feel the gap, but know what it is. In other words, feeling a gap you don't understand feels hopeless, because if I think that I feel bad because this person died and I can't do one thing about this person being gone, then I'm going to be unhappy forever. You're not, but I feel like I am, and that just makes this moment worse. But if I know that I feel bad because life caused me to expand and I'm using some thought and keeping myself from expanding, now at least I have hope that I could change the thought and close the gap.
Right.
We want to say to you in very loving but powerful terms, you're the only one who can make yourself feel better. And this is the epitome of what we said to Esther when Esther said, give me 10 rules to live by. And we said, we'll give you 2. It's not my job to make you feel better. And that's what your dead friend would say to you. I can't come back to life to make you feel better, man. You got to figure this out. You got to feel better because it's right for you to feel better. You got to figure out how to catch up with you. Don't lay this on me, croaking.
Yeah. So I guess the question was about, what do I do with the feelings when they come up of sadness?
What choice do you have?
Not much. To just either feel it or kind of suppress it.
Well, here's the thing. It's like we said to the woman who had pain in her hips. You can have pain in your hips and be hopeful, or you can have pain in your hips and be fearful. And the difference between fear and hope is the difference between recovery. So you can have uncontrollable wailing and feel embarrassed and broken and like you're not living your life right, or you can have uncontrollable wailing and emotion, and you can acknowledge it for what it is.